Alright everyone, we are here with War 6 of Season 27 against Nope. BG1 has the High Ground Global, and I will be bringing Mr. Negative, Quake, and Archangel. I have Path 5 in Section 1, a middle mini-boss, Path 8 in Section 2, and then a mini-boss on Boss Island. Alright, so Path 5, I have a Symbiote Supreme on the first node, and then Hitmonkey on the second node. I will be taking Symbiote Supreme with Mr. Negative. This is a pretty easy fight, but as you will see, I make it quite difficult because once again, I forgot about high ground preventing the evade counter. So hopefully this is the fight that'll help me learn not to do that. But as you'll see, it's a pretty smooth fight. You're going to see me parry heavy just to knock him down, to get that ebb and flow down or off so I can gain that fury. And then it's just going to be parry attack. One thing that I did notice about Mr. Negative versus Symbiote Supreme is that when you cancel out a buff to convert it to light energy, it ups his blessing number or charge. So that symbiote buff that he has that scales basically the potency of his buffs / abilities depending on his blessing. And there it is, the evade counter that I tried for no reason at all. And the bleed damage that'll follow after, which thank God it's not heavy. Plus he threw a weakness on me, so I got to heal a little bit to counter it. But those debuffs, or those buffs that get converted, count towards that ability. And that actually affects his power gain when he changes blessings. But as you can see, pretty straightforward fight. I just decided to use potions this war instead of avoiding it. Archangel versus Hitmonkey. You really just need to know how to play Hitmonkey, play against Hitmonkey. To conquer this node in this fight. You're going to see me parry heavy, and after every parry heavy, if the debuff doesn't get shrugged right away, which it will pretty much every time, you just have to avoid this evade, so be prepared for it. And you'll see I combo so that I can get that evade out. The RNG is not really working with me here. I'm not landing more than one bleed, so every parry heavy is netting 0 bleeds, so no poisons, so no neuros, but here finally get to land a bleed, and we landed a poison with 1 bleed. So we finally got 3 neuros on him right away, and this will make the fight a lot faster. And down he goes. So easy peasy path, and I made that first fight really complicated. Okay, so we're gonna heal up Mr. Negative right before this Manthing on Power Snack. Now, I decided to play this fight as if he had unfazed so that I can see what it's like to go through the SB1 into SB2 into SB1 into SB2 rotation with how long it takes. Without the evade counter, it's harder to convert light to dark, so you have to do it through the SB1. And if you build the 10 light and then convert through the SB1, if you don't have enough power almost close to an SB2, it's hard to keep that dark energy into an SB2. So what you're going to see is actually the first round of light energy, because I'm trying to bait out these specials and I built too much through parry, are going to actually expire before I can throw SB1. And the combat regen was for the Hitmonkey fight before, so I didn't intend on using a grave boost here. But you are going to see me rebuild to either 8 or 9 light energy, and then I'm going to drop the SP1. And then what's nice about having that much convert is that this block proficiency buff is quite big. It's 8 times 700. So you're going to see a lot of these parries, or pretty much all of these parries, net 0 block damage. And here I'm not focused on building light. I'm actually just focused on pushing to SP2 and then using it. And what you're going to see is, thankfully, this one petrify, or sorry, these degens are going to push him to 50%. So we're going to get to see how much this one petrify affects backup recovery. And it almost makes it non-existent. So that power bar was not flying up there like crazy. So throughout this fight, without the evade counter, it still makes Mr. Negative a really hard counter to this fight in this node. Especially when Power Snack is trying to nullify a buff. Anytime you see a Immune over there, I'm doing 1600 damage to Manthing for basically doing nothing. Just being Mr. Negative. And I believe it's the second SB2 that's going to finish him off with the degen damage. So, not a hard fight at all. Really, really good counter for this node. All right, path 8, we have an Elsa and a Hulkbuster. Elsa, we're going to use Archangel, and Hulkbuster, we're going to go ahead and Quake and Shake. So nothing special to see here. Archangel, we're just going to parry heavy, bait out SP1 instead of SP2, dodge it, retaliate if we have SP1 so that we can combo into SP1. If not, we might just combo into blocking and parry heavy. And you will see that I just happened to miss one parry during this fight and get incinerated. I think she does a medium. But not a difficult fight. I do have the stun mastery max. There it is. Medium. And she's just melting like she should. Throwing that SP1 when we've got it. Just get as many neuros as we can on here. Really dialed in and focused now that we missed the parry at once, so we don't lose any more health. And I think at this point I planned on taking a mini boss with Archangel, but it can be quaked, and because of that damage I avoided the item use and used Quake. So moving on to this Hulkbuster, he does start with an armor up buff, so he's going to start with putting a weakness on us. And we are just going to Quake and Shake the whole time as soon as we get a dex buff up. So now the rich get richer is equal. Both champions have their own unique buffs, so no one's gaining power from the node. And Concussion is preventing any other armor up buildup if it's timing right, so that we don't gain any other weakness buffs, debuffs, which would make this fight a little bit longer. But just like any other fight, Quake counters Quake and Shake is just plain. Nothing much to watch. There's a second weakness buff. You got a second armor up buff, so it's going to take a little bit longer. I can do it, and even though high ground is the global, it hasn't, I think I said this in a previous video, it's not the high ground champs that are preventing quaking, it's the fact that other champs that do fights faster are not being limited by Protect, such as Doom or Cosmic Ghost Rider. So we're not seeing Quake as much this season with the globals. And this should be the last Aftershock. Oh, nope. It was a little too far for me to drop the heavy, so I didn't trust it. And there we go. All right, so we're back at this Mojo with kinetic transference that we're going to use Mr. Negative for. I didn't use a gray boost, at least a 3-minute gray boost for this fight, just simply because this is the third time I've taken this fight, so I feel pretty comfortable with it. And as long as I slow play it and pay attention to prompts and can bait out his SP1, it is a very, very safe fight for Mr. Negative. I believe I do try the evade counter a couple times in this fight, and he does not seem to have unfazed, so it's just so smooth, just such a hard counter. I know we've been trying to use magic, maybe even Quake for this node, and that Ghost, and that indestructible on SP2 kind of puts a wrench in things, even though it is an actual buff instead of a passive buff. But he's just getting mowed over right here. I believe we're going to drop this SP2 without 10. And here he actually decides not to come in. So there is a chance that sometimes the AI will do that. So usually I've gotten used to feeling for when the AI is going to come in, and then I'll charge the heavy. And there I just kind of decided to charge it and wait for him to come in so that I could drop the SP2. But it wasn't a big deal. Here's the SP2 at 9 dark energy, only 1 petrify, still reducing the power gain, watching those prompts, and down he goes. So just a very nice hard counter. We never took 1 degen. All right, so last fight here, I actually the timing didn't work out with when everything was cleared for me to take this on my second set of boosts, so I did have to boost the third time. Not a big deal, especially with how we know season 27 ended now. But I decided to Quake and Shake this fight since she doesn't have any health lost, instead of trying to use items on Archangel. He does randomly, I guess I was a little slow. His animations do come out a little robotic. That little kick there actually flows well with his animation. So there's like a hesitating pause, and then he kicks, even though it looks like it's going to come. But he does happen to throw one heavy in this fight, but I see it coming, so it was evade one part of it, dex the other. But he's pretty fun to watch attack Quake, not gonna lie. The animations are pretty smooth. His weapon has a nice animation when it swings. That's about it, though. It's a good bypass. This parry heavy with Archangel does work. It's just after every heavy, he's going to invert your controls for a small amount of time because the 2 light he gets from the parry convert to dark from being knocked down. Until you get enough neuros up, then it doesn't happen. So building light and dark can be affected by ability accuracy reduction. And down he goes. So not a difficult war for me. If anything, item use was because I made it difficult. We did not beat their BG. We actually died 1 time to their 0. And we actually tied this war. So we were in 2nd place before going into this war. I think Nope was a little shy of top 3. And we both received a loss for this. So it knocked us into 3rd. And then with the update messing up parry and some dexterity, at least with timing, this ended the season. So we actually finished 3rd for the season with only 6 wars, which is great. But we did not get a shot at 1 and 2 ASR and a Chinese alliance to hopefully knock them out or place 2nd and 1st. So disappointing in that regard, but great that only 6 wars and we finished top 3. So expect a video about season rewards and our results and my kill death ratio. But thanks for checking in. Go ahead and hit subscribe and follow me on Twitter to keep an eye out for any new videos after this while we're in the off season.